What is my contribution in life? What is my contribution? That's a curious question. I haven't got the time to contribute is a very typical response. But I think when you think of this, you're not contributing your time to some volunteer organization. You're contributing you to the society, because there is no one like you. There never has been, and there never will be. But you have to think in the sense that in society, it's not about me, it's about we, obviously. So everything I do, to a certain extent, is a contribution. When I drive my car properly, I'm contributing to, let's say, public safety. When I walk down the street and I smile at another human being, I'm contributing to the common good, as it's called. I'm making society more joyful. So I think my contribution is a big deal. I'm a very important person when it comes to contributing to society, and there's 8 billion of us, or a little bit more, and all of us, I think, should think this way, that we are necessary beings. So ask yourself, how can I contribute ultimately more in life? What I've begun to do is, in my notebook, every day now, I check myself, and I have a section called Act of Kindness. So I ask myself, today, what did I do that was kind, a kind act that will contribute to the overall well-being of the society? And I make a note of it. And it could be something as simple as I opened the door for an old woman, or I walked down the street and I smiled at a child, or I picked up a piece of litter that was on the sidewalk. These are all very small, insignificant contributions to the society, but they all benefit the society. So you know yourself. If someone does something gracious to you, you're very, very touched. And they also are contributing to the overall well-being. So how can I contribute more? Well, I think I have to be somewhat real. I am a moral agent. Within me sits the capacity for, of course, bad, but also the capacity for good. So I must remember to keep my commitments. If I promise to do something, I must do it. And of course, by training, I'm a philosopher, but now I'm a writer, and I also do a lot of teaching, and I'm exposed to a lot of people. And I say things like, I will do that tomorrow, or I'll send that to you, things like this. And I remind myself, and I write them down, and I remember them as well. I must keep my commitments, because if I keep my commitments, I am then telling the truth clearly, and nobody doubts me. And it's interesting, because this ties into your personal brand, doesn't it? If your personal brand is a truthful brand, people always remember Leon keeps his commitments. He does the right thing. And I especially remind myself, when someone is kind to me, I attempt to document that kindness, return that kindness with a note of thanks or a small gift, whatever it is, right? And then we come to Aristotle. What does Aristotle tell us about my commitment to life? Well, he says, always excellence. Why not? In other words, when I do a job, I should do it well. I should make a commitment to do it well. Make a contribution to the society. I've done something important, right? And if I don't do it well, at least I know. And then there is so much negativity in the world, the news media, the internet, and I must go out of my way to contribute joyous things in life, happy things, wonderful things, because that is life for the most part. Life is really, really hard. Yes, it is. But life is also beautiful. And I've received such a gift, this thing called consciousness, that really when I awake in the morning, I should be filled with gratitude, right? And are you a healthy being? Well, if not, are you responsible for that? Unfortunately, yes. Fickle things do happen. Bad things happen. Yes, you can get sick. But usually that does not happen. What happens is that we are not attentive many times to our health. It's true. 30% of Americans are obese. And why are they obese? Well, because they've eaten too much food. Obviously, it's not a genetic condition. I've read that it sometimes is you have a predisposition towards obesity. Well, maybe that's true, but then you should be on guard. Because at any age, you have to get out to the gym. And this last summer, David and I walked 900 kilometers throughout northern France and then into northern Spain. And if this body can do it, anybody can do it. It's simply a matter of practice. Aristotle tells us that all of us, of course, have the potential to be happy, but happiness is a process, right? And I think ultimately, then I learn from hardship and I can contribute the experience. It is very important for old people such as me to talk about their life straightforwardly. Tell the truth. The other day, a taxi driver picked me up, and he was from, I believe, Iran. And I asked him, "How are you today, sir?" And he said, "Not very good." And I said, "Why?" And then he went on to tell me a litany of problems, that he was an academic and he'd come to Canada with his family for a better life, and they wouldn't accept his accreditations, but he didn't have the time to go back to school or do the tests or whatever. So he started a business, and the business eventually failed, and now he's driving an Uber. And he felt that the Uber was below his station in life, and he was quite distraught. And I said to him, it's not all bad. And he said, "Look, I don't need any positive statements." And I said, "Hold on here." I got a little irritated, actually. I said, "Hold on. That's not the case. In life, you have a choice. You can either be a coward or you can be a hero. And life is hard, and it's up to you. There is no middle ground." And I think at the end, I slightly turned his thinking, perhaps, because I think ultimately I'm responsible for me 100%. And I think when you share that message, it's the positive thing, because many people don't realize that they're responsible for their life. They're blaming someone, circumstance or loss or tragedy or whatever it is. But ultimately, my life is 100% my fault. So in this way, you can then begin to contribute to the common good by telling people the truth. And they look at you, and you potentially can be an example. You can change no one. This is very important to realize. You can change no one. Your friends, your family, your loved ones, even your own children, you can't truly change. Their lives are up to them. Sadly, in some cases, I'm sure. But by being an example, people say, if Leon can do that, I can do that. I have a 95-year-old friend who still reads and writes and is lucid. So obviously, if he can do that, I can do that. I can push on and I can help people by being a model of life, by practicing self-discipline on a daily basis and showing people that this is necessary. So in that way, I can contribute to life, and so can you. And you know what they say. You know what they say. Critical thinking is everything, especially when we contemplate our contribution to society and what we can do more to help people. And critical thinking is great, truly great. You take care. God bless. Bye-bye. Hello, Leon here. This is our 15th day on the El Camino. Wow, incredible. Today we came from Hornios to Castro Harris. So along the Mesita, it's a semi-arid region, a plateau in northern Spain. Apparently it's going to go on for almost a week. So you walk and you see semi-arid fields that extend from one horizon to the other. So it is in a certain sense you have to be silent and be into yourself, because there's not much scenery in the sense of scenery, geography and trees and mountains, etc. But it is still lovely, but it is somewhat different from the region we've seen to date. So today we're going to talk about contribution. What is my contribution in life? Now, the Camino, for the most part, is helped along by hundreds of volunteers. And they put in the time because they believe in the spiritual message of the way, if you will, the El Camino. And I've been extremely touched by people from all sorts of life, all walks of life, that have devoted their time. Some Americans, in fact, we stayed at one monastery, and there were 2 Americans that were devoting their time for 2 weeks, cooking and cleaning just for us, because you are treated as a very special person, as a pilgrim. People really believe in your mission along the way, and they don't ask anything from you. The cost is relatively inexpensive, the food is excellent, the kindness is extreme, and people are devoting their time. So that of course then asks the question, what is my contribution in life? And I think to myself, all of us grow up with the American dream, in a sense, don't we? We work hard, we study hard, we go to university, then we finish, we get a good job, we save our money, we meet Mr. and Mrs. Right after getting a good job, we retire and we die, and we give probably zero back other than our taxes to the society. But we have to give something more. And I think this is especially true of aged people. Aged people who have all the wisdom of the world cannot just retire and run away and play golf. They have to volunteer, they have to give back, they have to spend their time. Otherwise, the young will never learn, will they? And this is increasingly a societal phenomenon. Old people are running away because they have the money and they don't want to spend time with young people. Just a bit of trivia. The 2 longest living populations on Earth at the moment are either from Okinawa or from Sardinia, and two totally different types of living, if you will. The Okinawans, they mostly fish-based diet, etc., etc. In Sardinia, meat, red wine, dancing. So what in God's name, if you will, would allow these two groups to be long-serving, long-living individuals? And the answer is family. So the old, if you will, are giving back to their families, to their children and grandchildren, and to the larger villages they live in at large. So think to yourself, in your daily notebook, what am I giving back? What little tiny bit of kindness am I extending? And you can start in a very small way to give back. You can start by opening a door for a person, be it may a man or a woman, helping someone along the street, devoting your time in a volunteer sense to perhaps one of your classmates that's not as good at mathematics as you are, etc. Just helping each other, because what you do come away with from this walk to date is an extreme sense of community. People truly are giving back. And David and I sat this evening with a number of people from all over the world. There was a Met Opera violinist and his wife. There was a woman from Australia. There was another American woman just retired from the Marines. Everyone with their own fears, everyone with their own plans, but they were all contributing to the conversation. And I walked away with a sense of wealth, because I learned so much today from other people. And I think that's what we all have to learn as human beings. I must learn that the world is not only about me, it must also be about we. Now, over to David.
Hello, Dave here. So, years ago, I had read a story in a magazine. It was about a Taiwanese man who moved up to Taipei to become a doctor or a lawyer or something like that. He stayed for 10 or 15 years. He wasn't happy. He was stressed out all the time. So, he decided eventually to move back to his hometown, a very small town in rural central Taiwan, where he started a winery and truly lived out his dreams. As Leon was saying earlier, we had the opportunity to meet and speak with people from all walks of life tonight, and also throughout our whole journey on the El Camino. I think that a lot of times society suggests that we need to become doctors or lawyers. We need to strive to do some kind of so called prestigious job. Just as an aside, I have had a friend from childhood named Kyle. And I remember since kindergarten or the first grade, he always had this desire to be a bus driver. He used to run around on the playground during recess, pretending he was stopping at houses, picking up children or dropping them off on his imaginary bus route. Years later, he ends up becoming a bus driver himself, and now he has a whole fleet of buses, and he does his thing. This isn't a job that I would want to do, but he's entirely happy with it. And that gets to my point. Every job has its own place in society. Everyone has their own individual role in society. It doesn't matter if you're the bus driver or the doctor or the winemaker. It's about you. What do you want to contribute to society? And are you staying true to yourself? That's the other important part here. You need to be doing something that you want to do yourself, as well as contribute and give back to the society as a whole.
So, as David is saying, you must contribute to yourself first, of course. You must be honest with yourself. You must get your notebook out, write the day and the date, and learn to talk to yourself. Now, this is not a journal, it's not a diary, it's your book of thoughts. And you'll show it to no one because they are your thoughts. But all answers lie within. So think about this, if you will, that as you give back, you will receive. Truly, you extend kindness, you receive kindness. It's karma. It's karmic. Truly it is. I believe this to the center of my system, so to speak. And you take care of yourself. God bless. Bye-bye.
Bye bye.
Good evening.
Good evening.